Half-Blood Prince.
Oh, we're still on that.
I'm just gonna tell you right now, for those who want to, okay, you're not required or anything. Somebody in my first class asked if we didn't finish, wrong book, Deathly Hallows, by the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, which is November 29th, could we meet the assigned final exam period to finish discussing it? And at first I kind of was like, I don't really want to do that. But yeah, I will do that. For anybody who wants to, okay? You do not have to show up. It will not affect your grade. Odds are I will probably have your final exams already graded by then, okay? I'm gonna keep mixing up my books. I'm gonna put up a quiz for Deathly Hallows. First quiz, probably today, maybe tomorrow. That'll be due next Wednesday, so it'll give you plenty of time. And then I'll put up another one that'll probably be due the following Wednesday evening. And more than likely, the odds are like 101%, I'll put up the final exam over Thanksgiving break, okay? And which will be due, I can't look at my calendar, probably on Monday, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, Monday the 5th, okay? Like 11:59 p.m. So you'll have at least a week, probably 7-8 days. It'll all be, that final exam will all be Harry Potter stuff. It'll almost all be based on previous quizzes, of which there will be, by that point, there's going to be quite a few, because we're up to, what, number 13, I think, in terms of the overall class. So there's probably 8 or 9 that are just on the Harry Potter books. Okay, all that housekeeping stuff is done. There was a quiz due last night. There's another one due
Friday.
Yeah, what day's today? Thursday. My days. I was up every hour last night, so more than likely this is going to be like that for the rest of the day. I think we left off. I just barely got into Deathly Hallows in my first class, and they're a little bit farther ahead than I was here because I keep adding more for some reason with you guys. I think we were in Lord Voldemort's request, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Had we started to talk about the old argument?
Yes.
Some faces going yes. Okay, so what's the old argument? Did I start there? Yes. What's the old argument? Because Tom says the old argument.
It's the old argument between Dumbledore and Voldemort, right?
Yeah, but what's it about? And it's not necessarily between Dumbledore and Voldemort. It's, what is an argument?
2 people fighting?
Does it have to be 2 people?
No.
No, it can be one person proposing what? An idea. An argument is a thesis. You don't have to write papers in this class, for which you're all very thankful, I know, and I'll tell you where to send checks later on when I'm not recording. But if I were, your papers, one on, the way I used to teach it, there'd be one on Lord of the Rings, there'd be one on Harry Potter novels. Your papers would have to have a thesis, and if they didn't have a thesis, you get an F. I mean, if you just try to namby-pamby, you know, I think the Lord of the Rings is about Frodo and Middle-earth, and it's also wonderful. And I'd say this is a bunch of bullshit, and, you know, which I've literally done on people's papers before. Not undergraduates, but graduates definitely. You'd have to take a position and argue for that, okay? So, the old argument is something Dumbledore is propounding. In fact, he says something about your famous pronouncements. What are those famous pronouncements? I know I'm going to close this door in 10 minutes from now. Somebody's going to show up. Nope, not us. Just making sure.
They don't spawn in until you close the door.
Yeah, I know. It's a signal. It's like the bat signal. So what's the famous pronouncement? that love is more powerful than my kind of magic. That's the pronouncement. What is Voldemort's kind of magic? Dark magic, dark arts, pushing the boundaries. Remember the other day I said, let's, for a moment, let's replace the word magic with science. Well, think of people pushing the boundaries of science. What's an example of pushing the boundaries of science today? And I'm going to get in all kinds of trouble here because some of you are not going to like this.
The genetic, cloning, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The perfect baby or whatever when they're like
CRISPR.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, the perfect baby.
The design,
That
Designer
freaks me
babies.
out.
Yeah, that.
Eugenics, right? We've talked a little bit about eugenics in here before. I've mentioned a specific person's name, and I saw some people's faces go, how dare you even say that about this individual, who I won't name her again. What does eugenics mean? Literally, beautiful genes. Not these. Who has the most beautiful genes? It depends upon who's selecting the genes, right? That's the danger of any kind of eugenics process. Okay? My opinion, I don't have the eraser over here. Just don't even go there. Why do we go there? What is the argument in favor of genetic editing?
So if you have a genetic, like let's say one parent or another parent has like a really bad genetic condition, like let's say, okay, for a woman, let's say you carry the BRCA gene, which means you
Breast
carry
cancer.
So you want to make sure your future daughters don't carry that gene too, so you might try to remove the breast cancer gene.
Or remove the future daughter and wait till you have one that doesn't have it. So when you find out that the embryo you're carrying has the gene, because you can't remove it at that point, right? It's already there. You're not going to go through, what is it, the DNA in an average adult is something like, if you were to stretch it all end to end, I read this the other day.
There's like the moon.
No, it's like 67 trillion miles. It's just an unfathomable number. Because each cell, remember, has that strand, okay? So, don't remember where it was. Lack of sleep. So, you change that. Both my parents had Alzheimer's. My dad had Alzheimer's and a brain tumor. That brain tumor and he had another tumor that he was the only one known to have that tumor as of 1977. He was the only one known to have had that tumor rupture and live. Only person in the medical literature at that point, okay? That tumor supposedly can also be genetic. I've not been tested for it because, there are some things you just don't want to know about, kind of a thing. But, Alzheimer's, okay? What about, the idea is, well, we can stop people from having these kinds of problems, diseases, et cetera, et cetera. One of the drawbacks that has happened as a result of COVID and masking? This has nothing to do with genetics, but it has something to do with this idea that we can intervene in such a way to solve certain problems. What was the reason for masking?
To keep people from getting more sick.
To keep people from getting more sick, okay? What was the purpose for the vaccine? How many of you have gotten the third boost or the fourth boost? Some people have gotten fifth and sixth boosted.
I got the vaccine, that's about it.
To stop-
I got Moderna.
To stop doing it, right? And yet, again, it doesn't matter your politics, whatever. And yet, both Moderna and Pfizer have admitted that at the time that we were first given the vaccines and the second and the third, they had no scientific evidence that showed it stopped transmission or spread. Okay? So why did I bring up children in the masking?
Isn't there like a respiratory virus going around kids?
Well, there is an RSV, but it's not just kids, it's adults too. And people are saying, well, we should start masking again, because people are unvaccinated. You can't get vaccinated against the RSV virus. There is no vaccine, okay? But what about children and masking for 2 years? What has it done to them?
It's
They didn't
decreased their
develop-
immunity.
Yeah, they didn't develop the,
They didn't develop immunity to the everyday ordinary bugs that go around that children need to come into contact with to develop immunities against them. And I would say even more important than that, there have been a whole bunch of studies based on kids who were in kindergarten or pre-K and for 2 years were wearing masks, that now they're suffering from what? Language disorders,
Oh.
communication disorders. Because when you're wearing a mask, what can you only see?
Eyes.
The eyes. You can't see how certain words go along with facial expressions. And so they weren't learning naturally. It's not like a teacher comes in and says, child, look at my face now. I'm stern. So sternness makes they learn it organically. With the masks on, they don't learn any of that, okay? What does all that have to do with this? Go back to science. He's talking about pushing the envelope on magic. And I said, use science instead. So how's he pushing the envelope? What did we learn from Voldemort at the end of book 4? When he's talking with his Death Eaters. While he's getting ready to, tase Harry, as it were.
He wants to expose the wizarding world and have the wizarding world take over.
Nope.
He's cheating death,
How?
like with his Horcruxes.
By pushing the bounds of immortality. Okay? And we get brought up Horcruxes. What are Horcruxes?
They're an element.
I don't mean what literally are they.
Containers of souls.
Yeah, but they're a variety of dark magic, right? Keep going.
You have to kill them in order to rip apart his soul.
They're pretty bad, most people would say. There are multiple cases of women who either can't have children or they've had a child and the child has died. And anybody knows where I'm going?
Yeah.
What have some women done as a result?
Kidnap other women's babies
Or
they
go even
I'm gonna go there. They cut the woman open
They-
and they rip out the baby.
kill a pregnant woman and take the child as their own. That's pushing the boundaries, right? Okay, now go back to this. The old argument, because Dumbledore says, of some kinds of magic, Tom, of some kinds, okay? You've pushed the boundaries of some kinds, like the evil Nazis, Stalinist, people-killing, psychopathic, sociopathic kinds of magic, right? Of others you remain, forgive me, woefully ignorant. Like, you've tried the one branch, maybe try the other side a little bit. The old argument. Nothing I've seen in the world has supported your famous pronouncements that love is more powerful than my kind of magic. So, he's saying, I have not seen in the world proof of what? Love being more powerful. What does that really mean? What is Voldemort, Tom Riddle, actually saying? He's not seen, he's suggesting what?
He could have felt it good or seen good.
He's not seen any good? He's in Dumbledore's office. Hello. Good. Now, book 7, we're gonna, not so good. What else though? What's he ultimately saying? What has he not seen? Love. That's what he's saying. Okay? Did I ask in this class the other day? Am I just completely rehashing stuff? Has he?
Yes.
How?
we talked about this the other day, his mom, made sure to get to the orphanage and give birth to him there, but right
So
before
I
she
am-
died.
Well,
So I
that's where we ended.
Did spin.
Oh, yeah,
We ended last.
Okay,
Right at that point.
she did what? That she didn't have to do in our, I mean, we could say 21st century at this point, in the mid 20th century, what could have been an option?
Termination.
Abortion. She didn't do that. She brought him to term. Not only did she bring him to term, did she have him, as has happened, there's news accounts, you know, did she have him in a dark alley somewhere?
no.
No, she didn't. Okay? She went to the orphanage. She had him there, and then she died. Okay? So maybe that's an example, but he didn't experience that, right? He didn't remember that, just like Harry didn't remember his mother. Harry didn't remember his father. So you couldn't really say Harry experienced James and Lily's love, because he has no memory of it, other than when Dementors are around and they kind of bring back the warm fuzzies. Not really. What else? Where else may Tom Riddle have experienced love?
This might be a weird one.
But I
Okay,
was
weird
like-
love's interesting.
I thought that since he was so close to Slughorn, maybe he had like a kind of like affection towards Tom Riddle, like
Slughorn?
like a parent to a child kind of.
Does Slughorn have affection for members of the Slug Club?
No, but I felt like he was a little bit different with that.
Possibly. Who else seemingly
Dumbledore?
does Slughorn show affection for?
Tom Riddle.
Other than,
Harry.
keep going,
Really.
Lily. He keeps bringing up Lily. It's like there's, but again, is that real affection? Or are they bigger trophies? Okay. Tom Riddle was regarded as what at the school?
Like the top student.
He did great in everything, right? I mean, he's got the award during his 5th year for stopping the heir of Slytherin. Like himself. What else? You're missing a big one. Actually, 2 big ones. No, take that back. You might be missing 2 possible big ones.
Like as far as who he loves or something? Or?
No, just his experiences. What did Mrs. Cole do? Who's Mrs. Cole?
Oh, she's the one who ran the orphanage.
She's the woman around the orphanage. She gives him a place to stay. She gives him a home.
She never kicks him out.
She never kicks him out. Parallels with anybody?
Petunia with Harry.
Bingo. Notice how similar Tom Riddle's upbringing is with Harry's. Okay, the Dursleys aren't an orphanage. And yet Harry spends the first 10 years of his life living where?
With the Dursleys.
More
Under the
specific.
stairs.
Or under the stairs.
In the cupboard under the stairs with the spiders. Thus, he's not afraid of spiders. Okay? Loving?
No.
Probably not the way most of us would think of it. But it's warm, it's dry, it's shelter, he has food, he has clothing, he goes to school. You know, because again, you can get on the internet and read about all kinds of weird families where the parents don't allow the kids to go outside, and it's because there is something screwy going on where the kid lives for 5 years in a closet. I'm thinking of a specific case.
The
Like,
Turnip?
no, it's like 5 or 10 years ago, where this 5 or 6 year old was discovered who weighed only like
46?
30 or 40 pounds.
No one knew about.
No one knew. Kid had been chained in a closet entire life.
Isn't that the kid that they thought their name was like stupid or something?
I don't remember that. I'm just remembering, you know, this story, okay? So, Mrs. Cole raised him allowed him to stay there. And what did Tom Riddle get to do at the orphanage that Harry apparently never got to do with the Dursleys? Go to the chapter, The Cave, in this book. Why are they at that cave? Yeah, later on. They're there to get the basin right, to get the locket. How do they know about the cave?
Because Tom Riddle took 2 kids from the orphanage there.
Did Tom Riddle take them? No, the orphanage took the children there on a holiday. They all went there. In other words, it's implied once a year they do what? They leave London and they go on a
Field trip.
a day trip. Why is it so important that Harry gets to go along with Dudley on Dudley's birthday to the London Zoo?
You've never gone
He's never. Horrible old cabbage lady, Mrs. Figg, is always babysitting him. Okay? What else? So Mrs. Cole gives him a place, gives him a home, gives him food, gives him clothing. All right? What else? Who else? Where is Tom Riddle right now in this scene? Okay? How did he get there? He came back after graduating, right? How did he get to Hogwarts originally? Dumbledore went and interviewed him. Did Dumbledore have to? Is it mandatory that every child who somehow shows up on the magical list, gets invited? Has to come? No. What does Dumbledore show him by bringing him to Hogwarts? Love. He'll be able to do what? Learn how to train his talents, practice his talents, seemingly control his talents. But Dumbledore does not have to do that. And that's why Dumbledore says you've been looking in the wrong places. Because all of those instances, his mother allowing him to live, Mrs. Cole raising him, Dumbledore inviting him there, etc. Dumbledore not doing what to the students, faculty, and staff at Hogwarts against Tom Riddle.
turn them against him.
How does that conversation occur? Do you remember? Harry asked, "Did you know then?" And Dumbledore says, "Did I suspect he was going to be the greatest dark wizard? No. Did I have an ill feeling? Yeah. Harry, did you warn anybody?" He says, "No." Why not?
It would have been stigma against him.
Keep going.
I mean,
True, entirely true, you're not wrong. He wanted to give Tom Riddle what? A chance. A chance. What did Hagrid say about Dumbledore? He gives people second chances. And sometimes third chances, and sometimes fourth chances. Kind of like Gandalf with Saruman. He keeps giving him a chance. What does Saruman keep doing? He just keeps digging that hole he's in. It gets deeper and deeper. Okay? So, perhaps you've been looking in the wrong places. So, if he's been looking out there, where does he say he looked? In the world. If he's been looking all out there, how do you read what Dumbledore says?
He needs to look within.
Turn inside. Now, this raises a problem. Is Tom Riddle capable of love? Dumbledore says he doesn't understand it at all. Repeatedly. He said that in book 5, he said it in book 4, he said it here. But not understanding does not mean that one is incapable of. We do know sociopaths. Many, I won't say all, many sociopaths are incapable of love. There is something wrong in the brain that doesn't allow them to feel empathy. It's like there's no empathy organ, whether you want to call that the brain or the heart, okay? Is that what Tom Riddle's problem is? Did I bring up in here the possibility of what Rowling may have said in an interview?
No.
One of my students, I don't know, 5 years ago, probably, no longer than that, probably closer to 10 years ago, said, I can't remember if it was male or female, he or she saw, Rowling gave an interview, and I've never found this, but I always report it as a possibility. I don't know that it's true. So big, huge caveat. That Rowling said in an interview that Tom Riddle, Lord Voldemort, is incapable of love because he was not the product of a loving conception. Now think about that for a moment. Not the product of a loving conception. How so?
He was conceived under the love potion.
He was conceived as a result of the love potion. Did Maripae love Tom Riddle Sr.?
Yes.
Yes. Or she was infatuated, one of the two. She thought it was love. Did Tom Riddle Sr. love Maripae? No, he did not. Because it was caused by a potion. And potions don't make love. All right? So, if this statement by a student is correct, and Rowling did really say that, take that idea to its logical conclusion. Tom Riddle's incapable of love because he wasn't conceived in love. Take that idea to its logical conclusion and apply it to the rest of the world. And I should, put on shield and armor at this point, because if she really thinks that, what does that mean?
That means like anybody who had a kid and it was just like random, then there's
One night
no way
stand?
that kid could be loved. Yeah.
30-minute hookup? Oops! Then what?
Then that kid doesn't know love.
And that kid not only doesn't know love, that kid is incapable of love. How many people in the world do you think are the result of one-night stands?
A lot.
Probably quite a few. Or the result of rape. A few, at least. Incest? A few, at least. Improper relations between adults and children? A few, at least. In other words, a few. And are we going to then assume that every one of those, if this is what Rowling believes, again, big, huge if, then it means that every one of those individuals, according to this belief, is incapable of love. And if they're incapable of love, they're just little Voldemorts waiting to be set off. I don't know about you, that is about the most repugnant idea in the world. Because what does that mean? Go back to Hagrid, book 2.
You're making an assumption about a group of people.
Okay, what else?
No chance.
What's he say about the Malfoys?
Rotten to the core.
Rotten to the core. I don't know linguistically if there's any relation, I would not be surprised, between core, I think that's how it's spelled, and cure. Rotten to the core, does that literally mean rotten to the heart? Because where does love supposedly come from?
The heart.
And if you're incapable of it,
You don't
Ooh.
have a soul.
I never made that connection before. You're what?
Soulless.
You're a walking, talking, living, breathing, not, keep going, not Dementor.
You've gotten the kiss.
Now that might apply to Tom Riddle. Does that apply to everybody, though, who isn't the result of loving parents? I mean, wow. Kind of makes you think, CRISPR, Margaret Sanger, maybe they're all right. Maybe we do need to practice some gene beautifying to get scary, scary stuff. So, Voldemort. Okay, so if I've been wrong, if I've been doing my research in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many, what's the Elvin Bishop or the song from the 70s? Looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in all the wrong faces, something like that. He says, let me start here. Let me be a teacher, okay? I put myself totally at your command. Notice Dumbledore doesn't go, Tom, open your damn mind. Listen to what I'm saying. Look within. Here, read the Gospels. Here, read, whatever. Put Jesus on tape, kind of. It's not, and that's not what Rowling's doing. Okay? She's not going there. She's not, nowhere is she going to say, take Jesus as your Savior and everything's going to be hunky-dory. She doesn't do that. Okay? So, Dumbledore finally cuts to the chase. I know you want to come back to Hogwarts. What I don't know is why. Why not try an open request for once? In other words, be honest. Why do you really want to come back? What do you really want? Now, within the context of this part of the novel, what are Harry and Dumbledore talking about? What are they getting? Let me rephrase that. What are they getting ready pretty soon to talk about? We're going to jump ahead. Horcruxes, right? Okay. Dumbledore doesn't know at this point, that is in this memory, what Tom Riddle has been doing. He knows some things. Okay. Why does Tom Riddle look the way he does?
Because he has part of his soul is in Nagini, the snake.
Do we know that at this point?
No.
Does he even have Nagini at this point? We don't know. But what has he done already?
He has already made several Horcruxes.
He's already killed his parents. Killed his father and his grandparents. We know that much. All right? So, what do you want? The question Dumbledore asks is almost word for word. Here he says, should I say it? I'll just use this phrase. Try for some remorse. Harry says to Voldemort, why not try an open request for once? Dumbledore asks. It's interesting that they use very similar language. He doesn't just say, why don't you ask me what you really want? Try for, okay? So, if you don't want to give me a job, notice he doesn't answer. He doesn't say what the real request is. He goes, of course I don't. You think I'm going to put you in charge of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds? First of all, Dumbledore doesn't say this, but just looking at him is going to do what to first years? It's going to scare the bejeebies out of him. I mean, he's got a snake face. Not totally, but he's getting there, okay? So, Dumbledore says, in response to, this is your final word, then we have nothing else to say. Dumbledore says, nothing. The time is long gone when I could frighten you with a burning wardrobe and force you to make repayment for your crimes. But I wish I could, Tom. I wish I could. What's he mean? I wish I could. Could he? Let me put it that way. Yes, he could.
Yes. He won't.
But he won't. Because he won't do that kind of magic. Because how could he? Imperio? But what would be the problem with that? Harry threw off the Imperius curse in his 4th year. You think Tom Riddle can't? Pretty sure he can. Okay? Is there another way Dumbledore could? I kind of think probably so. But why doesn't he? Notice, not why can't he, why doesn't he?
Because it's not right.
Why isn't it right? I mean, you're right. It's not right. It denies Tom Riddle what? Choice. Free will. One of those things that makes humans human. Okay? So, Dumbledore brings Harry out and says, why did he want to come back? Yeah, I have some ideas. Need that memory here. Okay? Unknowable room. We're going to skip a bunch. Harry tries to figure out what's in the room that why Malfoy is using the room of requirement. How does Harry try to get into Malfoy's room of requirement?
By following him?
Okay, that's one way. But what must the room of requirement become?
But what you most desire.
Yeah, but Harry's most desire is for it to become what it becomes for Malfoy. Notice, that's not what Malfoy wants. It's different than what Malfoy wants. So Harry can't enter Malfoy's room of requirement per se, okay? Because it becomes only what that individual wants to become. But if somebody's already there, you can't obviously use it at the same time. After the burial, chapter 22. Trying to go through quickly. What's the burial and what comes after? Anybody? Who dies? Or what dies? Not the big burial, not the big death.
How does it say everything? It's Aragog, Harry, or Hagrid's.
Aragog,
Spider.
Hagrid's spider friend, dies. What comes after?
Like there's a Slughorn, Hagrid, and Harry are all just like drinking and hanging out and.
Throwing back a few beers and they're getting wasted. Well, Hagrid and Slughorn are. I never thought about that before. Slug is a term that's every now and then used for drinking, like have a slug of something. Horn, drinking horn. Never made that connection before. It's possible. How does Harry get the memory? Because that's what after the burial is all about.
He talks about he uses his mother to as an example for Slughorn and basically says she will have died in vain and you'll disgrace her.
Okay, so he uses guilt manipulation. Harry's learning, in other words. What else does he use?
Felix Felicis.
He didn't use it on Ron in the Quidditch match, right? Because Quidditch is stupid. It's not important. Okay? This is important. So he uses the Felix Felicis, and Slughorn looks at him and says, you do look like your mother. How?
You have her eyes.
Okay. Look into my eyes. Just not going to say anything else, just going to leave that. And so Harry starts to think of Slughorn's heart being like a harp. His heart being like a harp. Harp has strings, right? So what does Harry start doing? Tug, tug. He starts tugging on those heartstrings. And he plays Slughorn like a harp, or, better example, like a fiddle. He gets him to, do what? He gives him the memory. Harry runs up to Dumbledore's office, tells him I have it, and what do we see? Around 496 or so. We're not going to go through the entire memory because I really want to try to get all of this done, hit at least into the first chapter of Deathly Hallows. What's a Horcrux?
A thing that contains part of someone's soul.
Thing that contains part of someone's soul. What can that be?
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Maybe you got a crappy soul, so put a part of it in here. Maybe you have a slightly better soul, put it here. Do you want to put a soul? Student, give me a cupcake. Probably not, because you're going to eat it and then, ew. It could be in anything, right? Harry and Dumbledore, how do you make a Horcrux? 2 parts, right? First part, you gotta kill somebody. And the second part, there is a spell or charm to encase part of your soul into something. What does Slughorn not tell Tom Riddle? What that spell or charm is. Because he doesn't know what it is. He's like, you're asking me, how do you go about and actually kill people? I don't know. I've never done that, okay? So why do you have to kill somebody?
Because killing someone is such a great act, like it rips the soul.
Whose?
Yours.
It rips your soul. So if you kill somebody, you tear your soul in 2. It doesn't mean necessarily 2 equal portions. It just means you tear a piece off. How many people did Peter Pettigrew kill?
13.
So does that mean there are 13 divisions in his soul? You would think that's what it means, right? If you kill somebody else, you tear your soul in 2. Implication would be, if you then kill another person, you now have 3 pieces. I don't think it's, what's the word? Exponential. You kill 1, you 2, you kill a second person, now you got 4 pieces, and you keep doing that. So that would imply Peter Pettigrew's got his soul in 13 pieces. But that's not the case. How do we know? Because Dumbledore's going to tell us in just a moment. Okay? So, got to get the name. Slughorn tells Tom Riddle, killing somebody is the supreme act of evil. Notice, what's the final unforgivable curse?
The killing curse.
It's the Vada Kedavra. Why is killing someone the supreme act of evil? It encapsulates all 3 of those curses. Not only is it painful, but what are you doing when you kill someone other than killing them?
Taking away their free will.
Because the will is an aspect of the soul. All right? So, Tom Riddle just, but how do you do this? He goes, I don't know. Well, this is just curiosity. In other words, I'm doing what? How does he begin this whole conversation? Is it just a matter of curiosity, like, well, hello there, Mr. Nuclear Physicist. Can you tell me how to build a bomb? Just, random curiosity. Doesn't have anything to do with my being part of this little terrorist cell. Just, Or how do I make, some kind of biological warfare? How do I create anthrax? In other words, It should send red flags, which it does, to Slughorn. Okay? So he asks, would 1 Horcrux be much use? Come on, think about it. Can you split your soul only once? Think of what that means. Wouldn't it be better, make you stronger, to have your soul in more pieces? Merlin's beard, Tom. Why? Why does he go on that? Because the soul is supposed to be what? Whole and entire. A complete unity. Okay? What happened to Gollum or Smeagol? Those are Gollum's 2 halves, right? In psychology, it's, the shadow self kind of thing. You could go all Jungian and, chase all that out all you want. Was Gollum literally 2 people? Well, maybe not literally, but there is, us and I and we. So, Dumbledore brings Harry out of the memory, and Harry says, so you think he succeeded? He made plus 32, somewhere around 500. Paragraph that begins a bit or more. Harry says, so you think he actually succeeded then? A bit of his soul was safe. Dumbledore, a bit or more. And he finishes that paragraph with, as far as I know, as far I am sure, as Voldemort knew, no wizard had ever done more than tear his soul in two. What does that imply? Because that statement just blows my mind, knowing the world that we inhabit. What do you do to tear your soul in two?
You kill someone.
No wizard had ever done more than tear his soul in two. So no wizard had ever done more than what?
Kill one person.
One murder. There aren't any. Dumbledore seems to be implying mass murderers in the wizarding world. Excuse me,
Yeah.
who that we have seen? We haven't seen Grindelwald. Peter Pettigrew. He killed 13 muggles. How do you juxtapose that with this? It's a problem. It's a huge problem. It's like Cedric suddenly being 20 feet away when he dies and falls next to Harry. But then he's 20 feet away about 3 paragraphs later. And it's not like, Lion Witch in the Wardrobe where a bunch of little mice come and pick him up and carry him and take him over here. And it's a problem, okay? So who is that one person? Is he referring to Grindelwald? I don't know. Did Slytherin never kill anybody? I don't know. Did any dark wizards kill anybody? Yes! I mean, go back to Order of the Phoenix when Mad-Eye Moody thinks he's going to cheer up Harry. And how does he do it? Hey, Harry, look at this picture of the original Order.
They're all dead.
Most of them are dead. Some of them only bits were found. We buried the bits. A little bit of foreshadowing, by the way. So, he says, yes, I have proof. Harry, how? Come on, Harry. Think, kid. Diary? What happened when Harry stabbed the diary with the basilisk fang? Yeah, I'll just use this one. Diary. So, I won't use check marks. Gone. Okay? They keep talking. Diary had been a Horcrux. Well, Harry, I don't understand. It worked like a Horcrux is supposed to. Okay? Fragment of soul inside it was kept safe, played its part, blah, 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 in preventing Voldemort from dying. Okay? He says, Harry, when you came back out of the maze 2 years ago, you told me some things that Voldemort had said about I who have gone further than anybody along the path that leads to immortality. Notice, the path that leads to immortality. He's not there yet. So, how do you get there? Keep doing it. Harry, okay, so he's made himself impossible to kill by murdering other people? Harry's like, wait a second, how do I wrap my mind around that? So we talk about the Philosopher's Stone. We're going to skip a bunch. Dumbledore says, referring to the memory, isn't 7 the most powerful magical number? He says, I think the idea of a 7-part soul would greatly appeal. Harry, wait, stop, pause. He made 7 Horcruxes? So notice the flaw in Harry's thinking. If he made 7 Horcruxes, then that would mean his soul exists in what? 8 pieces. So Dumbledore says, no, not 7, 6. The 7th part of his soul, however maimed, resides inside his regenerated body. He says the 7th piece of soul will be the last that anybody wishing to kill Voldemort must attack. That is, you want to kill Voldemort, you got to kill all the Horcruxes first. Because if you kill his body, there's still that bit of soul out there which can be somehow, we don't know how, surely there's a dark arts book that Dumbledore has in his library somewhere, because that's where Hermione gets all the Horcruxing books from. So, Harry's like, but those could be anywhere. I'm the dead man. You are forgetting. You've already destroyed one of them, right? Diary, Dumbledore, and I destroyed another. Harry, you have? What does he not see on Dumbledore's hand anymore?
The ring.
Hasn't been there for quite a while, okay? The ring, Harry. What's going on with Dumbledore's hand?
It's completely blackened by this point.
It's blackened and shriveled. Is it just his hand that is blackened and shriveled?
No.
Just let that hang there for a bit. So, Dumbledore says, yeah, I'm willing to sacrifice my hand for one of Voldemort's part of his soul. So he says, there's 4 more that remain. Right? We know what 2 of them are. We've discussed the locket and the cup. These 2, we don't know what they are at this point. Okay? Harry, and they could be anything, right? Like old tin cans. Notice, he's kind of thinking, what would be appropriate for portions of Voldemort's soul? Old tin cans, empty potion bottles. Those are what?
Sprinkle items.
Okay, what else?
Containers.
What else? Trash. I think it's interesting that he thinks of those. He doesn't think of, were the diary and the ring trash? Is the locket and the cup trash? No. But Harry jumps to garbage, like Voldemort. He says, no, trophies, Harry. Trophies. Harry, the diary wasn't that special. Okay, so Harry, when Dumbledore says, can you think of 2 other things? And it's like the light goes on. Okay. And then Dumbledore says, yep, I think you're right. I don't know about Ravenclaw, if there's something of hers left, right? Because this was whose? Originally. Salazar Slytherin's. This was Salazar Slytherin's. This was Helga Hufflepuff's. We don't know what these are. But he says, I don't know if anything survives of Ravenclaw. And as far as Gryffindor, I am confident, however, that the only known relic, singular, of Gryffindor remains safe. What's he referring to?
The sword. The sword.
The sword. But there are 2, because there's the hat. How is it safe?
Because it only appears to a true Gryffindor.
Yeah, but where is it when it doesn't appear to a true Gryffindor? It's in Dumbledore's office. And who's going to be damn fool enough to break into Dumbledore's office, So, Harry's like, okay, so if he's got something of Ravenclaw's or of Gryffindor's, that leaves a 6th. So we're thinking this one, it's either Ravenclaw or Gryffindor. That leaves another Horcrux. Unless he's got them both, unless he has something of Gryffindor's and something of Ravenclaw's. And I never actually made a connection that I just literally made in my mind. Well, he does have something of Gryffindor's, doesn't he? Okay? Dumbledore. I think I know what the 6th Horcrux is. I wonder what you will say when I confess Nagini. At this point, okay? So Nagini, Dumbledore suggests, is the 6th one. So we can take the parentheses off of Nagini and just put it around that one. In fact, let's just take that one off and make it a question mark. Okay? Harry, you shouldn't. Dumbledore goes on. Next paragraph. He seems to have reserved the process of making Horcruxes for particularly significant deaths. He believed in killing you, he was destroying the danger the prophecy had outlined. Harry, he was going to make a Horcrux when he attempted to kill you. So, number 5? No, is that what he means? I think Nagini's a Horcrux now. That only leaves 1, right?
Harry.
So number 5 is supposed to be Harry? As we know, he failed. After an interval of some years, notice what Dumbledore doesn't know. I'm giving it away. There is one already. Don't put R. and it's Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, her little crown that she wears. We find out all about it in book 7. So, he wanted to make one of you, wanted to make one when he killed you. So, Dumbledore thinks this one is supposed to be Harry Potter. Turns out that we're going to find out, giving away, because we're getting into book 7, it's not. He does make 7, and Harry is the last one. Okay? Or does he make Nagini after he makes Harry?
We don't ever find out, do we?
We don't know the order. It's kind of implied this one's made earlier. Okay? Yes?
Does Voldemort know that he made a Horcrux?
Ooh, see, that's a good question.
I don't think he ever did.
Said he would be trying to kill him. Because he's like, that's part of my soul. I can't kill my soul.
Well, he can't because he still has a whole bunch of pieces living.
Yeah. But you could just put him.
And what could he do? I think this is a theoretical question. Once he split his soul and encased part of it in something, can he reincorporate that bit of soul back into himself? Can he, kind of metaphysically stitch together part of the soul that's been removed? Not sure. Okay? Rowling doesn't go into that. So, he says he failed, obviously. He used Nagini to kill an old man. Dumbledore thinks he made Nagini into, he implies, made Nagini into a Horcrux when he killed, who's the old man?
The housekeeper.
Frank Bryce, beginning of book 4. So that's long after this happened. Okay? What did Dumbledore tell Harry that Voldemort did on the night that he tried to kill Harry? Book 2. He transferred, Dumbledore's words, he transferred some of his powers into you. Harry interprets that for us. How? Say that again?
He put a little bit of himself.
He put a bit of himself into me. Who's more accurate? Harry is. He doesn't know that, but he is. Okay? Why wasn't Harry wanded with the dark censers when he arrived at Hogwarts this year?
Because he was late.
Plot device. I mean, that's the plot device reason. What's the real reason?
Oh.
Why are you smiling? You know the answer.
He would have set off the,
Alarm bells galore would have gone off. Why?
because he's a Horcrux.
Is there anything darker than a Horcrux? Probably not. Okay? So, they keep talking. Harry asks, does Voldemort know when a Horcrux is destroyed? Dumbledore, don't think so. Okay? He also doesn't think Lucius Malfoy knew what the diary was. Okay? In fact, he finishes that paragraph talking about, and I'll bet Lucius Malfoy is pretty happy that he's in Azkaban right now. Because he doesn't have to face Voldemort and his followers. Okay? And then Dumbledore says, this is 1, 2, 3, about 4, 5 pages before the end of the chapter, and we're going to, as hard as it is to believe, we're going to slow down even more. Harry, so if all his Horcruxes are destroyed, Voldemort could be killed. Yes, I think so. Without his Horcruxes, Voldemort will be a mortal man with a maimed and diminished soul. Okay? While his soul may be damaged beyond repair, that kind of implies that No, he can't take a bit of the soul back and regenerate it into himself. His brain, his magical power remain intact. It will take uncommon skill and power, even without to kill a wizard like Voldemort. Okay? In other words, Frodo, you must use such heart, strength, and wits as you have. But I haven't got any of those, Gandalf. Harry, but I haven't got uncommon skill and power. Dumbledore, yes, you have. In other words, don't tell me you don't have something I just said you have. You have a power that Voldemort has never had. You can, oh, please, not again. What? The old argument. I can love. So I just need to find Tom and go, Tom, I love you. The world loves you. Just all you need is love. And just start playing all the late 60s songs. It'll just bring the end of the Vietnam War, and it'll be the age of Aquarius, and we'll all be happy. And mostly drugged out, but we'll be happy too. And I'm a child of the 60s. I love 60s music. So, Harry, I can love. It was only with difficulty that he stopped himself saying, big deal. It's kind of surprising that she doesn't put here a word that she does put in book 7. Because I would have had Harry say, as she writes it in book 7, big, she creates a word, effing deal. I mean, she literally uses the word effing rather than F, apostrophe, or asterisk, Dumbledore, yes, Harry, you can love, who looked as if he knew exactly what Harry was thinking. That is the big deal. Well, why does he look that way?
Because he can.
Hello, reading your mind, Which, given everything that has happened to you, is a great and remarkable thing. And then he says something that they're tired of hearing. They, Harry and the others, his age, have already told us. They've been tired of hearing for at least, I don't know, since book 3. You're too young to understand how unusual you are. Well, that's kind of odd. He doesn't say you're too young to just understand. It's too young to understand how, what does he mean by unusual? What does unusual mean? Unusual, not usual. If you're a Young Frankenstein fan, Abby, normal, okay? Out of the ordinary. How out of the ordinary is Harry?
Pretty out of the.
As out of the ordinary as you are, and you are, and you are, and you are. I could go all the way around the room. Because everyone in here is unusual. You're not the same as everybody else. Thank God, right? Really, doubly, triply thank God. There are no more me's walking around. I, almost think that every morning. Bad enough to look at one. So, he says, Harry responds, so when the prophecy says, I'll have power the Dark Lord knows not, it means love. What's Harry thinking? Come on, give me a superpower, man. Make me an X-Men. Make me an MCU person. Somebody. Make my arm turn into a big giant wand that I can, blow him with nuclear, whatever. Dumbledore, just love. That's it, Harry. That's your superpower. Woohoo! But don't forget what the prophecy says is only significant because Voldemort made it so. And that's probably one of the most important sentences in the entire series. And it takes Harry another 3.5 pages at least to begin to understand it. It takes him most of book 7 to fully understand it. And what I mean by fully and begin is he's beginning to understand it up here, rationally, logically. Where is he not yet understanding it? What stands under the mind up here? The heart. what C.S. Lewis in his classic little book, The Abolition of Man, calls the chest, the seat of judgment, okay, where we make all of our value and moral judgments. That's not up here, all right? So, he says, what? The prophecy is only significant, why? Because Voldemort made it significant. How did he make it significant?
He made him his equal.
Because I choose you. And he could have chosen
Neville.
I told you this last year, Harry, but it comes to the same. What's Harry thinking? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. It still means what? I die or he does. No, it doesn't, Dumbledore says. You are setting too much store by the prophecy. What does Harry think the prophecy is, or what does he think it means, really, for him? His life is what?
Pretty much done.
Say that
Pretty
again?
much done. It's
How so? I think you might be on the right track, but I'm not sure. The conclusion is what? Fixed. It's foregone. This is fate. This is destiny. If you've ever read Oedipus the King by Sophocles, what's the entire point? And this is why something written by a dead white guy 2,500 years ago is so vitally important today. You can't escape fate. You can't escape destiny. Okay? It's also why at the very end of the poem, the chorus says, count no man happy till he is dead, free of pain at last. I mean, one of the things the author, Sophocles, is saying is, you want a life without pain? You ain't gonna get it. You gotta die. Then you'll be happy. Okay? Notice who doesn't accept that philosophy, by the way. Voldemort. Because death means what? The end. Dumbledore kind of does. It's kind of a Greek idea. Because death is what? It's a doorway. To the well-organized mind, it's a great adventure. So, he goes on. But, Harry interrupts again. You can go through and count how many times every time Dumbledore says, but what? Always. Me or him? What's it actually turn out to be? Just to really jump to the end.
Harry has to be the one to kill Voldemort.
No. I mean, true.
Oh.
It's me and him. We both gotta die. Okay, we'll get to that later. If Voldemort had never heard of the prophecy, would it have been fulfilled? Would it have meant anything? Of course not. And Rowling is kind of introducing there, I don't know if she actually intends this or not, but whether she intends it or not, it's there. The age-old philosophical question. Tell me if anybody knows how this ends. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. What the hell are you talking about, Sherman? Doesn't make a sound. What must there be for... I can't even think of a way to ask the question without giving away.
There has to be a recipient to receive the sound.
There has to be a receiver. Otherwise you have what? Sound waves, and they just keep, believe it or not, literally, okay, this is, air pollution, right? Every word I'm saying, if it makes it outside the confines of this wall at all, where do those sound waves go?
Out.
Spread.
And
Spread.
do they stop?
No.
Blow your mind for a while. Go outside, have a conversation with somebody. If you had a fine enough receiver on Pluto, you would eventually be able to hear that. Or next galaxy over. Okay? What's his point? If Voldemort hadn't heard the prophecy, what would the prophecy mean? If none of you, or if one of you, had never picked up and read this book, or any book, what would that book, or any book, mean to you? Absolutely nothing. Why?
You didn't read it. You don't know what happened.
You have no knowledge of it. You have no awareness of it. Okay? What's Dumbledore's point? The prophecy in and of itself is totally meaningless. Totally meaningless. What gives it meaning?
His interpretation of it.
His acting on it. That's it. Okay? Harry, but you said one of us had to kill the other last year. Harry, only because Voldemort made a grave error. Okay? If Voldemort had never murdered your father, would he have imparted in you what? And this is one of the things that, even though it doesn't get mentioned until here, it's alluded to earlier. It's one of the things that drove the wacko Christians out of the woodwork when the first 2-3 books came out. They're all about what? Revenge. This little kid wants to kill this guy who killed his parents. That's not very Jesus-y. Jesus doesn't tell Peter, go get Pilate. Stab him in the back. Turn the other cheek. Okay? What else? If he had not forced your mother to die for you, would he have given you magical protection? Notice, rhetorical questions. No. Of course not. Don't you see? He created his worst enemy and then rolling extrapolates. Rolling through Dumbledore. Applies what's happening to Harry where? To the larger world. It's like, listen up, boys and girls. I'm giving you a life lesson here. Tyrants everywhere do the same thing. All of them, have you any idea how much tyrants fear the people they oppress? All of them realize that one day, amongst their many victims, there is sure to be one who rises against them and strikes back. Why do tyrants everywhere institute what is called a police state?
To keep control of the population.
Don't think police in the good sense of police. I had a brother-in-law who was a cop, 27 years. He was one of the good ones. He dealt with a lot of really, really bad stuff. I alluded to it the other day. I don't have time to mention it, but I'm going to anyways. You know the 4 kids in Idaho that were killed, the University of Idaho students? Mm-hmm. The murder scene was very similar to one my brother-in-law went into in the small town of Willits, Northern California. When the investigators got there was, I probably shouldn't tell you, blood everywhere. Walls, just people who'd been investigators for 20, 30 years said, never seen anything like this. Just, okay? What's his point? Tyrants do what? They stomp people down. Where do we see that image? Malfoy, Harry's head. Malfoy's a budding tyrant. Or is he? Because we're going to see in the chapter Sectum Sempra, not so much. Okay? Tyrants fear those they tyrannize. Why did the president of China, a couple weeks ago, have his predecessor physically removed from the final day of the week-long annual, or it's either once a year or once every 5 years, meeting of the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing? I mean, they were sitting there, big old huge hall, with President Xi sitting there, and this guy sitting to his left, the previous president. He was president 10 years ago, because Xi has just been elected to his third 5-year term. He's actually president for life now. Okay? Well, this guy, sitting next to him, sitting there, he's about 78 or so, sitting there watching, listening. These 4 guys walk in. They kind of lean down, they grab him by the elbows, and he's like looking up, trying to talk to them, and they're not so gently lifting him. And he turns to Xi and says some things, and Xi, just kind of looks straight ahead, says a couple words, and goes back to looking straight at, that guy's not been seen since. Why? He's a threat. He's a threat. What did Joe Biden not have done to Donald Trump? What did Donald Trump not have done to Barack Obama? What did Barack Obama not have done to George Bush? Erased. No, they're still there. You can go back, okay? So, he says, he heard the prophecy and did what? He acted. Only problem was, what did he hear?
The first half.
How did he hear it? He heard it secondhand. He heard it because Snape was, which we're going to see briefly. So, by attempting to kill you, Voldemort did what? He singled out the remarkable person who sits here in front of me and gave him the tools for the job. Are we told what those tools are? Did Voldemort give Harry love? No, he didn't. Did he give him uncommon skill? No, he didn't. So what are the tools that he gave him? According to the prophecy, he marked him as his equal. That's it. Did he hear that part? No, he didn't. If he had heard that part, what would the logical process have said to do? Don't do anything. If the prophecy says, the person I go after, I'm going to make into my equal and give the ability to defeat me, then what does that say? I just go, I love everybody. Just don't do anything to anybody, okay? So, he says, Harry, despite your privileged insight into Voldemort's world, which, notice incidentally, any Death Eater would kill to have, right? Think who particularly that we have seen, who has this weird kind of, shining for Lord Voldemort. Bellatrix, one who wars, what her name means. You've never been seduced by the dark arts. Never, even for a second, shown a desire to become one of Voldemort's followers. And I think that may be, or that may indicate the reason why Harry says what he says in book 1. Just before they go through the trap door. Remember what he tells Ron and Hermione? Snape's going after the stone. He's going to get it for Voldemort. He's going to come back. If I die, it'll only be dying later, he says. At the Dursleys, he'll have to come get me. Why? Because I'm never going over to the dark side. I asked at that point, whoever asked him to? Could it be, just possibility, could it be that Harry mentions that going over to the dark side because there's that little tiny bit of Voldemort in him? Why did the Sorting Hat say, oh, you would do well in Slytherin? Notice the Sorting Hat doesn't say, hey kid, you got a bit of Tom Riddle in you. Embrace that. Fan that flame for darkness, and you together with he. Well, Harry, of course I haven't. Like, it's disgusting. You are protected by your ability to love. Because love is the exact opposite of all of those things. The only protection that could possibly work against the lure of power like Voldemort's. In spite of all the temptation, all the suffering, you what? You remain pure of heart. How do we know Harry is pure of heart? Book 7, the 7 Potters. We're going to see. They make apologies of Harry. What's it look like compared to Crabbe and Goyle's? Crabbe and Goyle's looks like snot. Bogies, as they're called. Harry's pure gold. Hermione's, in fact, going to say something that can have sexual overtones, if you want to go there. I personally don't. But if you read /fiction, just don't. Harry and Ron, don't. Okay? Hermione says, ooh, Harry, You look good enough to eat. And Ron gives her a look. What the? Okay? And he talks about what Harry saw in the mirror. Not the first time, second time, third time, the fourth time. When he sees the stone going into his pocket. Why? Because his greatest desire is to stop Lord Voldemort. At that point. Okay? Harry. But it all comes down to the same thing. I've got to. What does he mean by got to? Necessity. Fate. Determined. The universe wills it. You know? Of course you've got to. Dumbledore doesn't disagree. But not because of the prophecy. Why does Harry have to? Because of his heart. So he says, Harry, imagine for a moment you had never heard of the prophecy. How would you feel about Voldemort? And what does Harry do? Mom? Dad? Sirius? Cedric? I'd want to kill him. I'd want to kill him. I'd want to stop him. Why? Just for those 4? Why else? Who comes next? I think that's what Harry's thinking. How many people has he killed? How many more will he kill? Should I open book 7 and we just start going through? Probably not, because literally there will probably be some tears. There will be some tears when we get to certain people who die in book 7. Because some of them just, you're like, what a cruel SOB Rowling is by doing that to us. You don't expect that person to. Right? I'd want him finished, and I'd want to do it. Of course you would. The prophecy does not mean you have to do anything, but it tells us Voldemort made you his equal. But he's an equal how? Okay? Set of scales. Harry on 1, Voldemort perfectly balanced. Voldemort, darkness, hatred, Harry, light and love. Right? How did Dobby describe him? A beacon of hope, a beacon of light. Okay? You're free to choose your way. Harry, you don't have to do this. You could say, nope, not my problem. But what's going to happen? You turn and walk this way, and what's going to happen? You think Voldemort's going to say, Harry, stop, turn around, let's have a duel, let's do it properly? No, he's going to kill him in the back. Right? Because that's how he rolls. That one of us, Dumbledore says, which makes it certain really that one of us is going to end up killing the other. So even if I say no, he's still going to kill me. Bingo. And finally, Harry understands. This is a rational understanding again. This is not heartfelt. The heartfelt understanding isn't going to come until late in the next book. It was, he thought, the difference between being dragged into the arena to face a battle to the death and walking into the arena with your head held high. Where does Rowling get that image from? What arena?
Gladiators?
Yes. Ancient Rome, the Colosseum. Why did they do games in the Colosseum? Well, one reason, because the Romans were bloodthirsty, sick SOBs. Who did the gladiators and the lions and tigers and bears, oh my, kill? Nope.
Slaves.
Some gladiators did. The lions and tigers and bears didn't. Because those were expensive to get. Slaves and what other particular group of people? You're probably going to think I'm beating this horse. Christians. Once Christianity became a problem for Rome, you've got roughly 300 years of persecution. There were a few years within that 300 years where they weren't being persecuted. but most of the time they were. What was done? We have numerous written accounts, eyewitness accounts, letters and such that survive, that describe Christians being brought into the arena, into the Colosseum or other Colosseums, amphitheaters, for example, not just the Roman Colosseum. Okay? And we have a few, there are not many, of Christians being dragged. I mean, ropes, chains, dragged, kicking and screaming. No, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Yeah, read out Jesus the whole 9 yards. They still died. They still had to fight the gladiators and or tigers, lions, bears. Okay? We have many more accounts of them walking in, not bound, because they were willing to face death. Look at what Harry says. Some people would say there was little to choose between the two ways. What are the two ways? Walking in, head held high, chest out, willing to face death. The other way, being dragged, kicking and screaming. The other way represents whom? Or who represents the other way? Voldemort. What's his name mean? To fly or flee from death. He doesn't want to die. Who represents the other? Harry, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. Where's nearly headless Nick? No. That's why he's a ghost. Why did Sirius go on? He was ready. Okay? Why would some people say there is little to choose between the two ways? What do both ways end up with? You're still dead, right? Okay? And Harry realizes that Dumbledore knew, and so do I, and so did my parents, there was all the difference in the world. What does that mean? What has Harry begun to learn? Title of my unwritten book, Harry Potter, and either The Art of Dying Well or Harry Potter and How to Die Well, or How to Have the Good Death, the euthanatos. It's where the word euthanasia comes from. Okay, we did not get nearly where I need to. So for today's Thursday. Tuesday, we'll talk very briefly about Sectum Sempra, very briefly about seer overheard, another prophecy and revelation that really she shouldn't have told Harry. Lightning struck tower, and then we will get into Deathly Hallows. So read half of Deathly Hallows for Tuesday. And like I said, I'll send out an email about when the final date is. For those of you who want to come, you are more